In August of 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, destroying much of New Orleans' infrastructure, leading entire neighborhoods to be flooded, and leaving hundreds of thousands of people homeless. In order to quickly find the money to rebuild the city of New Orleans, the United States Congress looked through several spending bills to see if any of that federal money could be redirected to Louisiana, with a lot of attention being brought to two earmark infrastructure projects in Alaska. Two bridges, one connecting the town of Ketchikan to an airport on the island of Gravina, and another one connecting Anchorage to Point McKenzie, in the hopes that it'll help the city grow on the other side of the water. With both of these proposed bridge projects together costing the government over $500 million in total, with the high cost coming from the massive size of the projects and the need for the bridges to be heavily engineered to survive the harsh Alaskan winters and the occasional earthquake. With the cost of the Gravina Island Bridge increasing after it was designed to be at least 200 feet tall to accommodate the passage of large cruise liners beneath it, with tourism being a major industry for small Alaskan towns like Ketchikan, with cruise lines bringing in around 1 million visitors each year. Now, earmarks are specifications within larger bills that direct money and resources to projects that local representatives and communities care about. This helps to make certain bills more appealing to members of Congress, as well as the public, because there'll be earmarks inside of them that will directly give money to projects like these bridges, with the earmarks for these two bridges being strongly defended by Senator Ted Stevens and Representative Don Young of Alaska, two of the longest serving and most powerful Republicans in the Congress, who argued that, as the second youngest state in the Union, only having joined in 1959, Alaska needed the money to help grow their local cities, as well as update their old infrastructural network. With Senator Stevens even arguing that, if the Senate decides to discriminate against our state and take money only from our state, I'll resign from this body. A serious threat, coming from a senator who had served in Congress for almost 40 years. However, the projects became increasingly unpopular with the general public in the lower 48, as it is seen as an example of government wasting money, especially as Gravina Island only had a permanent population of about 50 people at the time, leading the project to be called the Bridge to Nowhere. The earmarks became even more unpopular in 2006, after a series of scandals emerged, with several congressmen misusing them. For example, it was discovered that Duke Cunningham, a Republican representative from California, used earmarks to direct millions of dollars in government contracts to several businessmen. These businessmen, in exchange for these contracts, bribed Cunningham with presents, millions of dollars in cash, and even a yacht. Everyone involved was eventually arrested and jailed. However, these scandals only led the public to view earmarks as symbols of government corruption and pork barrel spending. Pork barrel spending is when representatives use government funding to win the support of local voters, in the hopes that it will improve their chances of being re-elected. Now, on one hand, that can be a good thing, because an elected representative should fight to bring money and resources back to their local community. And since the two bridge projects were very popular in Alaska, the local congressmen Don Young and Ted Stevens fought hard to keep these earmarks for their own state, and by doing that, it increased their local support and their chances of being re-elected. But on the other hand, people also argued that these millions of dollars could have been better used to help the people of Louisiana recover and rebuild from a natural disaster, instead of being used to build a fancy new bridge in the middle of nowhere. Another problem is how earmarks relate to the issue of logrolling. This is where politicians make deals to support bills that benefit each other's interests. So, for example, one politician might say that they will vote to support an earmark for a pool in Kansas if in exchange, another politician will vote to support an earmark for a UFO statue in New Mexico. And while this can be beneficial to gain support for very local projects that only one district might care about, it can also be an issue when politicians are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on projects that might only benefit a few thousand people, such as the case with these two bridges in Alaska. And with the 2008 financial crisis leading to even more economic hardship, these criticisms only began to intensify, with these earmark projects eventually being ridiculed by both candidates in the 2008 presidential election, Barack Obama and John McCain, as well as Joe Biden and McCain's running mate Sarah Palin, who was the governor of Alaska at the time. And after several years of negative public attention, both these projects were eventually rejected and the money was redirected for other infrastructural projects. Except, in all this controversy, the government failed to cancel a project linked to the Gravina Island Bridge. So while the proposal for the bridge was abandoned, what wasn't abandoned was the plan for a road to connect that bridge to the local airport. So a dead-end highway was eventually constructed leading to a bridge that didn't exist, costing the government almost $24 million, to build a road to nowhere, where the bridge to nowhere should be. Please let me know what you think, and if there's anything I missed or other factors you think were important, please feel free to include them in the comments below. If you'd like to have early access and give feedback on this type of content, please consider joining the Patreon. As always, thanks to my patrons, Untroid and DC, who have helped me from the very beginning. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you next time.